We are live.
Right.
See if it's showing. Hello, everybody. Come on in the room. This is about to be a good discussion. Okay. Hey, y'all. Welcome. Come on in. Just share this to my page. Okay. Turn the volume down. Okay, so I can see that. Hey, y'all. Hey.
It is.
Come on in. Say something to us when you pop in so that we can acknowledge your presence. So excited about tonight's conversation. It's gonna be a good one. All right, so we're just gonna wait a few moments and let some people come in to join us, and then we will get started. Hey, looks like my mama's in there. Hey, girl.
I'm there. I should have. Let me tag my mom. Actually, wait, no, let me not tag my mom.
Let me see how it goes first.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Think about that one. Mm-hmm. Too funny. Hey, Jennifer girl. Thank you for tuning in. So we will give it about one more minute and then we're just going to get started. So I know people will pop in, but I'm just so excited about today's conversation. So I want to make sure that I allow enough time for us to have this conversation. So one more minute. Welcome to everybody who is tuning in to Relationship Talks. Hey, Teron. Hey, Monica girl.
My IMT family up in here.
Yes. Hey, Rachel. Welcome, y'all. It's been a while, so I'm excited about tonight. Okay, so it's 8:03. I said 1 minute, so we are going to go ahead and get started. I am so excited about tonight. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done these relationship conversations, relationship talks, but we are back tonight, popping in to talk about quarantine dating. And if this is your first time tuning in, my name is Shavon Carter. I am the You Relationship Coach, which means I am passionate about all things dealing with relationships, especially the relationship that you have with yourself. I am the founder of Walking in Wholeness, LLC, where I help women fall in love with who they are. And I am the founder of Purpose Publishing Company, where I help first-time authors publish their stories so their voices can be heard. So tonight I have a special guest with me who is my friend, my brother, who I have known since our days at Florida A&M University in the Images Modeling Troupe. So I have my brother Al Williams here tonight. So Al, why don't you introduce yourself to the people and tell them a little bit about you?
Okay, yeah. So I'm originally from Chicago. Grew up in the Chi, in the projects in Chicago, and it was rough. It's every bit of what you see on the news, unfortunately. But at 18, left the crib and joined the Navy. I've been active duty now for a little bit over 20 years, which sounds weird to say I've been doing one for 20 years.
Thank you for your service.
Pleasure to serve. But in the middle of that, for the best years of my life, arguably we're at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. All right, look, FAMU, where the rattlers at? Yeah, and that's how I met the lovely host over here, and again, for the best years of my life, definitely some formative years for me. And after that, majored in engineering, ended up going back into the Navy, got into nuclear engineering, and eventually switched over to cyber. So I do cybersecurity now, and on the side, serial entrepreneur. So various things, between real estate investments, between doing marketing, just a lot of stuff I like to put my hands into, and do a lot of service work. I do a STEM program for kids, teaching them every Saturday about robotics and coding. Also putting together a program for young gentlemen to teach them how to be upstanding gentlemen in society. So quite a few things that I keep my hands, in. So it's been an interesting, past 20 years for me of just adult life. So in a nutshell, yeah.
Okay, all right. So that's some wonderful things you have been doing your thing over these past 20 years. And just for the ladies out there who may want to know this, are you single? Since we're talking about dating.
I'm currently single. I know you got to say that these days. You can't just say you single.
Right.
Single, entanglement free. Like, hey, look, I know how it is. So yeah, we about to get into that. So yeah.
Okay, all right. So, ladies, he is single, just in case you're wondering. Okay. So we got some people joining us. Hey, Ro, I see you. Hey, Teron. She said Aggie Pride with rolling eyes. Okay, it's an HBCU, so I guess you're all right. My cousin is online, so we got a lot of people joining in. So thank y'all for tuning in, and put your comments in the chat, your questions, so that this can be an interactive session, because even though we're having a conversation, we want to hear from you too. So yeah, without further ado, hey Tammy, let's get into this conversation tonight. So we are talking about quarantine dating, and we are almost 6 months in to this pandemic. Can you believe that we have been going through this for almost 6 months? It's unbelievable. We've been going through, some devastating times with people losing their lives and just being confined to our homes and just limited access to places and people. So I just thought it would be good for us to have a conversation about it. And Al and I talk about dating all the time offline, so we wanted to bring this conversation online. So that's why we're talking about this. We don't know how long we're going to be in this pandemic, in this quarantine state. So why not talk about it? So, with the subject of quarantine dating, let's start with, should we be dating during this time? What do you think, Al?
I think definitely, right? Because, um, you know, there's various pros and cons to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, in the current state that we're in, everybody's going through just a whole lot of emotional, stress, right? So, having that companion, that person around you is definitely needed. But again, pros and cons to it, right? So, we can be extremely raw with this tonight. So the cons of dating right now. Um, so there's the obvious, of the social distancing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that constant urge to like spray everybody with Lysol. But I think there's an overwhelming sense of either apprehension to meet people, whether it's from the fear of COVID, but also a fear of just this distinguishing somebody's intent.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, not everybody is intentional about dating. Right? Let's be real about it. But people have a tendency to say like all the right things, but this stretches further than just where most people might think I'm going with this, and that being, guys just looking for that quarantine and chill vibe, right? but I mean, like, look, let's be real about it. Like, there's plenty of women out there looking for that Rona Bay. and here's the deal, right? But like, here's the deal. Like, at the very root of both of those is that human need for companionship. So, it's really no surprise that this pandemic, may have produced like a plethora of entanglements, right? But I'll say this: a pro and a con of it, like at the same time, is that most of the go-to places are either closed, they got like limited hours, limited outside seating, right? So you got to be creative,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like the intention, becomes much more prevalent, for those that are paying attention, right? And I mean, like, if a woman is really looking for a gentleman to like properly court her,
Mm,
well, bro, you gonna have to, get real, get real quick with that fancy degree you got, and and start doing some research, right? I mean, you got to be creative right now. I mean, it's super hard because the options, we're very limited right now, and
yeah.
on top of that, conversations are actually they're more contextual and important now,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have the ambiance of you know a nice restaurant to hide behind.
Right.
You don't have the sounds of a live band to drown out that awkward silence, right? Like, you actually got to talk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like, if either parties are truly intentional about that potential connection, then the creativity and finding that vibe, within the person, it gets easier, right? Because I mean, if you're really like listening and paying attention to a person, as you're getting to know them, like, like what to do to be creative
Yeah.
and going on a day. I mean, if
And
it's
before we even get into the creativity of it, I'm curious about people in the chat, like people who are watching. Like, what are your thoughts about dating during this time? Do you feel like it's something that should be done? Do you are you on the other end and just feel like I don't even want to entertain that right now? So I'm just curious to see what other people are thinking about dating during this time. And one of the things that you said was being intentional, because I think that's another thing as it relates to if you do choose to date during this time, be honest with what you're looking for. Like you said, if you want a quarantine bay or Rona bay, just let the person know that. No judgment, no shade. That's just where you are and what you're looking for right now. But don't lead the person on, because like you said, it's a lot of emotions that come up during this time of being isolated. So you just feel your emotions are all over the place. So just, I love what you said about just being intentional and being honest. So, but yeah, I want to hear in the chat what people are saying. So Vernon says, hey, Kelson, he said it causes you to be more creative. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So we've talked about some of the pros and cons of dating. And so you were going into the creativity. So before we even go into how you do it, where do you find people? Like, we can't go too many places. So where do you find
Yeah.
people who
So,
can
you
date?
know, uh, this is an interesting one, right? Because right now, when you go out, everybody's masked up, right?
Yeah.
The most you can tell is that somebody physically ish kind of matches, what you want, and they got pretty eyes, right? Like, that's about it. But I mean, I feel like you can even, like, look, much deeper. And if you're a true creative, right, you look at a person and you say, oh wow, look at that mask. That was actually pretty creative, like what they put together. Like, they actually put some thought and didn't just go get the random mask they got from the hospital, right? But it's hard because you can't just go out and be like, you talking like this. Hey girl, what's your name?
Right?
Like
Like, how
that's what
you
it sounds
say
like. Like, it's
you
weird.
can't pull it down, right?
Yeah, you can't pull it down because then they're like, whoa, hey, hey, you got your COVID test? Like, for real. So it's like you can't really go out. But here's the thing, though. I would argue that a lot of people weren't going out to meet people these days anyway.
Okay.
That's drastically changed. So um, the only thing this did was it brought light to the truth, right? Like, people use dating apps now, right?
Yeah.
People talk a lot of mess about like Tinder and, like, what's it called, like POF or Plenty of Fish or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Like, all these dating apps, right? People talk stuff about, but like, low key, they at home on them apps right now, right? And it, like, all this did was it brought light to the truth that that's what people are using now, right? I mean, you got Facebook groups now too, right? That are,
Mhm.
loosely centered around dating, right?
Yep.
Where people have these conversations, which I think is cool, right? Because um, if there's true engagement, right, then you get to see what people think. You get to see
Mhm.
what kind of interaction they want to have when it comes to dating. You get to see the kind of thought process they have. So I almost think like sometimes the Facebook, pages like maybe a little bit better if
Yeah.
that person is truly active.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the dating apps, it's a tricky place to be in, right?
Mhm.
Because some people are pro, using apps, and other people aren't, And in my experiences, I've met people on, a dating app where their profile had like nothing, like like 0 words or whatever, just a pretty picture, and it was just like, well, I mean, yeah, she's cute, right?
Don't know much about
Then,
her, but she's cute.
I know, right? But then it turned out that person had so much depth, you know,
Wow.
but just was very apprehensive about using a dating app.
Hmm.
So it's a tricky place to be in, because you might just automatically judge a book by its cover. And just my advice for that is if you're using dating apps, um, I always will opt for peeking at like your Instagram or something like that. And some people are private about it, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I think for those that aren't, it kind of gives you some context, right?
Mhm.
Because I may not put something like, oh, I love whiskey, like different types of whiskey on my page. But if you go to my Instagram, you may see like, oh wow, he's been to like distilleries, and like he actually likes whiskey just for the actual taste of it. Or oh my
Right.
god, he loves to travel so much. I love to travel too. Or oh my god, he's into STEM and all these other things that I'm interested in. And you'll get context for conversation.
Hmm.
So there's also been times where I've, talked to people, and the very first thing I get is like, oh, well, my Instagram isn't really all me or whatever. My social media isn't all me. Let's be real. Like, you either put exactly what you are on
Yeah.
social media, or you're putting, the picture of what you want to aspire to be. So either way you look at it, it's a part of you, right? And it gives context for the conversation. It's not the complete person,
Mhm.
but it gives you a starting point.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where we're at right now, is dating apps and Facebook groups.
Yeah, and I love what you said about the Facebook groups, because we're both in a group, in Facebook, and there's so many groups out there.
I saw
Um,
that. Thought she was cute.
many groups. I try to slide in there, they make me do an introduction and all that stuff. But anyway, so you get, it's like 44,000 people in the group, and they're from all over the world. So they post different questions and scenarios, and you get to see people's thought processes. So before you even say anything, you can click on the person's name and see what they have responded to. Let me see how he think. And then you can choose from there if you want to slide in his DM, or you can comment on some of his some of his comments if you don't want to be that upfront with it, and just see if he'll slide in your DMs after you show him that you're paying him attention. So it's little, indirect ways that you can do it if you don't want to do it directly. But
Yeah,
I
and
definitely agree with that.
speaking on that, like a lot of people are very shy about that, right? When
Mhm.
it comes to social media. Here's my advice. um, do what I like to call the social media handshake. All right. So
All right, let's
like, let's
get.
just say you see somebody on one of these pages, and you're like, wow, this person kind of cute or whatever. I like this kind of stuff they're saying, but you don't know how to jump into the DM, right?
Mhm.
Go to their page, like a few pictures. Just go like, at least 2 to 3 pictures or whatever, right? Now
Uh-huh.
that person might come back and like a few of your pictures. That gives you an indication that they're probably interested too, right? So either they're gonna jump into your DM, or you're
Yeah.
just gonna have to get off your butt and just say, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, it's pretty simple. Like, "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah.
Right?
It
Like,
is so true. Yes, that works. It is.
mhm. Yeah.
Let's see what the people are saying on here. So let's see. So Monica says, I've gone on a couple of dates, and I like to be clear about my wants and expectations. Okay, Monica. So sounds like she's doing some intentional dating.
Mhm.
Jennifer says, it's cool to date during this time, but I think it's more challenging to meet people organically, not just online. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelson says, if you think they're attractive with the mask on, tell them pull down the mask for a second so you can see what that mouth about. Right, because you just don't know.
Hey, that could, you know what? Like, if a person got a sense of humor, that actually might be kind of funny though.
Right, right, exactly.
Right?
Because this is a great time. Like if things, you know, This first impression with your eyes, that's what matters. So this is some good stuff. So we've talked about, the pros and cons. We've talked about places that you can go virtually to meet people. Talk about the apps and Facebook groups and those kind of things and how you can do a virtual handshake, like a few pictures. So now, what about you have been in this person's DM, y'all have been communicating, and the guy or even the woman may ask for a first date. What are some ideas? So you were talking about being creative earlier. What are some ideas?
Yeah. So, I talked about this before with just listening, right? Really understanding what that person likes. And, all the go-to places are closed right now, or like limited seating. I mean, you got to get old school, right? I mean, if it's just a picnic, right, which I know sounds like extra cheesy and corny or whatever, like maybe too romantic to some people, but that's actually a pretty simple thing to do, right? So, I mean, I feel like, you have to, you just got to listen, right? You got to listen to what this person really is into and go for that. So, you can do like just, walks on the harbor, whatever, right? Or if you're into fitness and they're into fitness too, maybe you make it a workout date or whatever, right?
Right.
It was funny. I was out, taking a run the other day, and I saw this couple, and they pulled up their Jeep to this track, and had their music blasting, and they have a good little time, and then they're getting a little workout in too. So, I mean, you just really have to. Again, it goes back to that being intentional thing, learning what that person likes and figuring out how to cater to that. You know?
Yeah. And so Jennifer says bike riding too. And my friend Patrice is on here. Hey girl. Hey, thank you, girl. Yeah, so bike riding is another way.
Mhm.
So I was looking at this or reading this article in the New York Times, and they gave some interesting suggestions. And if you're watching, give us some ideas about things that you have tried or things that you want to do. But I'm curious to see what you think about this. And this looks like it's more so virtual dating, so not going out anywhere, but just some ideas. So one of the things they said was start with the cameras off for the first 6 minutes. So
Mm.
it's similar to the show Love is Blind on Netflix when they didn't see each other until they got engaged. So
Mhm.
they said for the first 6 minutes, take the focus off the appearance and just listen, and talk that way. What are your thoughts about that?
Um, I think that's a very doable thing. But I also say this though, it's you already know what this person looks like, right? Because you probably met them like on social media. So I don't think it should be a hard thing to do. I do like it for the anticipation, piece of it, right?
Mm,
So I think that can add some, something real interesting to it. So because I mean, even talking about it seems weird. Like I'm just gonna cover up the camera, right? Like, and as and if the conversation gets good, right? That build up, that anticipation, it's gonna get really, really strong. And then when you finally see that person, right, I think it's gonna mean more. So I like that.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. So another idea they said, have a structure to the date in mind. So they said gather key information. So I guess go on each other's social media pages, get some key information. Oh, you love to travel, something that you said earlier, and then engage in different activities with each other. So come prepared for activities that you may want to do and share different stories. So what do you think
Yeah.
about
So I like that. And one of the things that I left out, you can Google this. You can find it on Amazon. There's a couple games like this. There's a game called Mentally Stimulate Me,
yeah.
and it's funny. Like somebody introduced this to me recently, and I was blown away just about just how cool that was, just to have those questions asked and just learn how that person thinks. So that goes back to what we were saying earlier, with the Facebook groups, when you can kind of learn like, okay, this is how that person is with dating, or this is how that person treats women, or this is how that person treats their family or their friends, right? So there's a ton of games out there, and it's funny because as I was preparing to do this, I just started doing some Googling on stuff like this because I definitely found it interesting, and I found so many games on
Mm,
Amazon. I mean, just all types of stuff. I mean, you got stuff from the really funny stuff to the kind of raunchy stuff too, right? So there's yeah, you can be on both ends of the spectrum with this one, ladies and gents. But you know, pick your poison, right? But I think those are definitely a good way of getting to know the person, because some people they're unintentionally awkward, right? And it's not because they're just at their core awkward person. It's just because they're nervous, right? Like the first time you met somebody, right?
Yeah.
So I think that could be fun. It'll like force you to talk about some of the things that you may not even think about.
Sure. Okay. All right. So here's another one. I thought this was really interesting. Give a tour of your refrigerator and ask them to open theirs.
Oh man! All right, so I'm gonna reject that one. I like that. I definitely like that one. So I would even take it a step further and say do a tour of the closet.
Okay. Okay.
Because I've I've been told about women that they definitely think it's sexy when a man knows how to dress.
Mm.
Sometimes you see the representative on a date or on social media, and that may be like one of three outfits they got in their closet, right? So I ain't knocking nobody, but let's be real. It'll give you like a little bit more insight to the way this person carries themselves too, right? Now granted, your closet might have a little bit going on, right? But I think if it's done the right way,
Mm-hmm.
I think it can give a lot of context to what a person's all about.
Yeah, I like that. So refrigerator and closet. Now let me tell you this. In my refrigerator is all carry out. So look, it's you gonna know from the beginning that I don't like to cook. I can cook. I need to tune into some of Kelson's cooking videos and tutorials because I can and I can get some more ideas. I just don't like to. And because I'm in quarantine, I'm trying to help, the economy by ordering out through Uber Eats. So that's what you'll learn pretty early on about me if I did this, refrigerator thing. And then if it's the closet, it's a lot of clothes, in the closet. Only room for me because it's a lot of shoes and clothes. So that would be fun. Okay.
I mean, now before we move off on that one, I think that could also be interesting, guys. If you're the grill master out
Mm-hmm.
there, right? Um, Find a park that's got a grill that you can use.
Yeah.
Show that you can actually cook.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, but I mean, if you can do that, yeah, like, that might actually impress us. So just put that out there.
Yeah. And this isn't on the list, but I just thought about something I've seen where people have ordered food for each other. Or
Mm.
maybe the guy ordered something for both of them or vice versa. So that's an idea too. And the woman doesn't know what he's ordering and he has it delivered to the door. So I think that's kind of cute, a cute idea.
Mm.
So another thing they said is
Before you go up on that one.
uh,
So I did do that once, and I think that could be pretty dope. Doing like a dinner date, but via like FaceTime or Zoom,
mhm.
right? And ordering the food for it, right?
Okay.
Right.
Did she know what you were ordering?
Yeah, I mean she knew. Yeah.
Okay.
I like that idea.
Go either way.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
You take one, man. Okay.
So another idea is do a virtual version of show and tell. Show something in your home that's meaningful to you and have a conversation about it.
Mm, I like that. That could be pretty interesting because but it also depends on just how open a person is, and I think that's the biggest key with what's going on right now with the pandemic is, for one, people are um, weirdly emotionally available right now, right? And you kind of have to open up, right? Because again, like I said, you don't have the same distractions as you had before. So those first meets are they're different. You spend a lot more time talking now. So I think if your intent really is to settle down and find somebody, right, something like that can be wildly interesting, because you'll start telling stories that you probably haven't told in years, or like you didn't even talk to your best friend about. Right? So I like that. Yeah.
Now this one, I don't know how many people would actually do this, but talk about vulnerability and being open. It says, read aloud 5 text messages you've sent in the last day. Wait a minute, that's a little bit too much. Wait a
minute. So I like that one too. Now here's where, gentlemen, I would ask you to get really, really vulnerable. Take it a step further, and the last text message with the last 3 or 4 people you dated.
Oh.
And here's why I say that.
Okay,
the real question is, why was that the last text message? Right? Because at the end of the day, you want to figure out, like, okay, what is this person really not like? Because sometimes we kind of hide those things, and we don't want to say, like, oh, I can't stand it when she does this or that, right? Because again, we're giving a representative, right? You know, we like everything, right? Oh, I love that you do this or whatever, right? And that's a lie, right? So I think you should take it a step further and do, the last 3 or 4 text messages, you know what I mean, to the last 3 or 4 people that you dated. And then that will give some context to why that ended, what you're actually looking for, right? And if, like, and let's be real, if you're actually looking for something at all, right?
Now that's some vulnerability for you. What y'all think? So let me see what people are saying. So my mom says, I'm so glad I'm married. My refrigerator is empty. That's right.
Oh man.
Erica says, I'll show my rock collection. Okay, Erica.
Rock collection.
Hey, LaCora. So she says she likes that idea. I can't remember what we were talking about, but she liked one of the ideas that we just talked about. And Monica says that could be a combination of righteous and ratchet, talking about the text messages.
Clear, right?
And LaCora says, nah, Al, that's going too far, all up in the business.
What you trying to hide, LaCora?
LaCora said, wait a minute, that's too much now. Okay. That is interesting. Get some of the text messages from your last couple of dates and see what the last text message. Y'all try that and let us know how it works out for you, okay? And the last one says, have each person finish this thought. Someone who really knows me would know this about me.
I like that. So, I mean, again, it goes back to whether or not the person is willing to be vulnerable and honest, right? So you might have to kind of restructure that one and say, you know, they know these 2 things about me, good and bad. Right? Because, again, we got the representative up, right? We're going to immediately tell, like, the good thing. Oh, I'm super ambitious. Like, I do this and that, right? Most people aren't going to be quick to tell, like, those bad things. And here's the deal. Sometimes those bad things, like, some people find that shit cute, right? like, don't be scared to talk about those things that are faults. I mean, faults are sometimes beautiful things, right? So you got to, like, just guard down and tell it.
Yeah, it's all kind of stuff that could come out. But you know what I love about quarantine dating and the idea of it? It really creates us, gives us an opportunity to go back to the basics. Like you said, we don't have as many distractions. And so we have conversation. We really have to, lean into the conversations and really get to know the other person, because what else do you have, because you're not really visiting each other unless that's what you choose to do. But, initially it's this video chatting, and maybe you may meet up somewhere outside, but it's a lot of conversation that's happening, and it just creates an opportunity. I think about back in the day when we used to fall asleep on the phone, talking to your high school sweetheart or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really getting us back to the core of communicating, so that's one of the things I think quarantine dating creates an opportunity to do that. So let's talk about some stories, Al, because you've been doing a little quarantine dating during this time. So what has your experience been like?
So I'm gonna give you the good and the bad, right? Our experiences, and kind of like And feel free to just ask, more detail about any of these if you want to.
Okay, because I like stories. Okay, go
Need
ahead.
to get vulnerable here. And so there was, from the bad side of it, I think, and even before getting to the bad side of it, I think, you really have to understand like what your boundaries are, like, what the rules of, for engagement are, right? And, you know, because that can make a date go completely sideways. So, I met up with somebody and they wanted me to meet at one of their favorite bars or whatever, right? I didn't realize that this bar was a hookah bar, right? And I'm OCD, you know what I mean? Like, I guess just certain things during this whole pandemic that I'm not willing to do. I love hookah, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I'm ready to go to hookah bars just
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
So it was weird when I got there because, I sit down and, beautiful woman and conversation is great. But the entire time I was like extra tense because I'm just like, well, you're not blowing your smoke over here. So it was just like, it was wildly like uncomfortable.
yeah.
And I felt like that took away from the date. And
Mhm.
it actually got to a point where I was just like, look, I think this is cool or whatever, right? But I'm just really not comfortable. And, if you want to stay here, that's cool. But I just can't do it, So it just kind of it just threw it off, threw the chemistry off, and she and I we didn't really reconnect. And I always wondered like, man, if we'd have met somewhere else, like I wonder if like that would have been different.
Mhm.
So it goes back to just understanding what a person is really comfortable with. So it's just yeah, it was just all bad.
So
um,
she didn't say it was a hookah bar. She was like, "Hey, this is one of my favorite places. So can you
Yeah,
meet me?"
yeah, yeah. It wasn't like a thing. And I guess, like my bad for not, doing my research, right. And I just didn't really look into it. Another thing, in all honesty, allowing someone to come to your home too early.
Mm.
All right. So I know this is a touchy area, right? Because there's a lot of guys out there. Let's just be real about it. Again, like I said, they're trying to get that quarantine and chill vibe going on. So here's why that was an uncomfortable thing for me. So with this particular person, nothing, nothing sexual like occurred, with this person. But I think we're at a point now where, you know, definitely more than ever, we feel a need to protect our energy,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
being that the majority of our time these days, is spent in our homes, you really want to, you don't want to disrupt the energy there, right? And I mean, if the vibe just isn't right with the person, like nobody really wants to have that awkward moment where they're like, what you doing tomorrow? Or like nobody really just wants to have that unpleasant memory of a date like in your home, like in your
Yeah.
sanctuary, right? So please, like, respect not only, like your body as a temple, but your home too, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So I know that that might not be something that you would expect to hear from a guy, but like for me, in all honesty, I'm very like weird about who I bring into my personal space.
Yeah.
So I'm not quick to be like, oh, just come to my crib and let's chill or whatever, right? Because like I work here now, right? Like my
Exactly.
desk is over there, right? So this is my personal space. So you really have to protect that energy. I'm up in here burning sage like every day. But
Right.
the good though. So I'll say this, and at the risk of this person actually hearing said thing, towards like the beginning of the pandemic, I had a legit 5-day date. All
You
right,
said 5-day date.
5-day date.
5-day date.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I mean, I completely like disappeared, right, from everything else going on, and very, I think it's not often that you're able to find a person that can do that, that can pull you away from everything, and a lot of things played into that. I was in a very emotional place, right, because of the pandemic and all the things going on with the racial injustice going on right now, and just being a black man in America, right, we're very on edge and emotional right now. So
Yeah.
it started with a FaceTime date. We decided on a time. We met up via FaceTime and had a really great conversation. I mean, got into some really detail about like who we are, what we're all about, and I think that gave some great context to us as a person. So after that, we did one of the things I mentioned earlier, taking a walk somewhere. Like we went to the National Harbor out here, right?
Was
And
this day number two?
yeah, this
Oh,
was day number two.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so this is day two, right?
Okay.
Decided that we're gonna go to National Harbor, and again, I'm very intentional when I date, so I listen to things,
Mhm.
and I knew what kind of music she liked, her favorite drinks, and I brought that. And when I say I brought, I mean I had like a little speaker or whatever, right? And I had like a flask, and I brought like her favorite drink.
Mhm.
We ended up grabbing food to take back to our respective homes, and that led to another date
Hmm.
because we ended up doing a FaceTime dinner, right?
Okay.
And gents, here's some advice for you. Women pay attention to the very small details.
Yes, we do.
The place that we grabbed our food from was actually closer to my place than it was to hers. So I got home and I purposely waited, heated up my food, and then I made sure that she got in safely. And then I said, hey, I haven't, ate my dinner yet. Let's sit down and have, you know, follow on date, right?
Yeah.
And then we had another separate date. And the next meeting, a day later, we went out to have coffee,
Mm-hmm.
real quick, in and out because at this time, like it was kind of hard to go somewhere where they actually let you sit around.
Right.
But a brisk walk, so to speak, right, with coffee. And then, at this point, we're moving into, for the fourth date, and like, we're talking to each other constantly. And
Mm-hmm.
she decided she wanted to cook for me.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. Now, again, not alone, right? Not alone in her place. She actually, it was with her brother, right?
Okay.
Make sure somebody put the arms on me.
Right, exactly.
It got crazy, right?
Safe
Uh,
space. Yep.
yeah. So I made sure kept them boundaries, right? So and then the next date, I decided to cook for her.
Come on now, this is getting juicy. It's like a build up here. Okay.
Yeah, it ain't no build up. I pretended to cook, so I bought that shit.
Oh, wait, wait a minute. You said you bought what?
Nah, I bought it. Yeah. So I mean, here's the deal. Like, it's just I was running late, right? Like, I just didn't have the time, man. But look, it's a thought that counts. All right. Like I heated them joints up though, right? Like, I used my oven,
Right.
right? I didn't exactly cook it, right?
Prepared it.
I prepared
Okay, I got you.
a
Mhm.
beautiful presentation, right?
Right, right.
Like, and then fifth date, found a spot, watched the sunset, just really took some time to like again have like very intentional conversations and you probably listen to all this and be like, man, this sounds like some extra like Love Jones type of stuff. Like,
Right. I'm like,
go
why
ahead.
you stop at five? What happened?
I
Like,
know. Maybe, and this again goes into the state that we're in with this pandemic. Maybe we became too familiar too quickly.
okay.
And I'm not sure actually. Like I'll be real honest with you, but as adults, we decided to just become very good platonic friends. Right? There's no intimate relationship there, and
Mhm.
I can just hear all the ladies in the background now, like he lying. But here's the thing, though. Like when you're intentional and you're genuine in your interactions with people, you start to understand that everyone has like a season and a reason in your life.
Yeah.
And though we may not be romantically involved, uh,
Mhm.
I have an extreme level of appreciation, for that particular person, and I feel like they'll always be a good friend.
Wow, wow. So this is interesting just to see the buildup. And I love how you said, even if you have a really great experience, it doesn't mean that it's going to lead to a love connection.
Mhm.
So just be open and flexible during this time, and don't try to box yourself in. Now, if it goes in that direction, great, that's wonderful. You have, a story that you can share, with us later on, or just with your friends and family and other people. And if it doesn't, that's okay too, because there's something that you can learn from this situation, right? I'm sure you learned a lot about dating. I'm sure you learned a lot about yourself, about her. So it just creates more opportunity. Now, there is one question that my mom asked is, would you have done this prior to the pandemic?
Ooh, yeah. So I feel like I would have done a variation of that.
Okay.
And that's being completely honest, right? Like I think we all get very comfortable, in
Mhm.
norms. And, there were some go-to places that I probably would have picked because that's just where I'm used to going, right? And again, that's why I love what the pandemic has done, to us, because it's made us really reach down and think like, okay, what am I really looking for? Like,
Right.
what do I really like? Because I'm gonna have to be around this person, just me and that person talking. So like, what am I willing to do right now?
Yeah.
And I think, the creativity that it forces you into is an amazing thing, because there's probably a lot of women out there right now that are ridiculously tired of dudes just saying, well, just come to my crib, let's just chill over here, right? Guys, like, here's the deal. Some women, they are looking for that. All right, let's just be real about it. That's what
Yeah.
they want.
Hmm.
But if you're really like trying to find somebody, if you're looking for that queen, like, stop trying to get it to your crib on the first date, bro. Like be creative, like find, like talk to her, figure out like what she likes and what she wants, and then cater to that. Because I'll be real, pre, this whole pandemic, maybe I was really catering to what I like,
Mm.
go to places, and I wasn't really thinking about, oh well, what does she really like? I was just probably thinking in my head like, well, this is a cool spot, I like it. This might impress her a little bit, right? Um,
Hmm.
but maybe I wasn't being as intentional on that part, and I think for that aspect of it, the quarantine or the pandemic has been great, because it's allowed me to really open up my mind and think like, you know what, let me be a little bit more creative and like really dig into what she likes, and then use that, to figure out what this first date is going to be about.
Yeah. And I think I know for me, this quarantine has helped me to really sit back and reflect and think about who I am
Mm-hmm.
even more and what it is that I want, right? Like it's just caused me to just sit back. I can slow down. Life isn't so hectic and I'm not all over the place, not having to run to work. I just walk upstairs and I'm at work, So it just gives me an opportunity to journal more and just reflect, on what it is that I desire and who I really am. And even though I'm choosing not to participate in dating right now, like there are some people that are just choosing to focus on them, which is great. And I'm one of those people, but it's just an opportunity. I just think once again that it creates so much opportunity for us to really sit back and reevaluate and recalibrate. Do I need to do things differently? Do I need to approach dating from a different perspective? So it just gives us a lot of things to think about and just choose how we want to move forward. So I love that you said that it is just brought to your attention some things that you may not have done, that you're doing differently.
Mm. Yeah.
So with the experiences that you've had as a man, what are some things as far as advice that you would give to women as it relates to dating? What would you say to the ladies?
Okay. So, aside from, the subtle undertone that you've heard me echo throughout this talk of intention,
Hmm.
I take it a step further and start learning your love languages. I mean, we all, we say it's all about communication, right? That's the biggest, that's the most common thing said when it comes to relationships. It's like, oh, you have to communicate. Like, it's all about communication. But communication, I think, is more than like how long you talk on the phone, or how many good morning queen text messages you get. And if and here's the deal. If I'm being completely honest, um, why do I want to be added to the flurry of good morning text messages you get
Yeah.
every day? Like, gents, be more creative, right? Like, learn her love languages and figure out, if it's the text message that she desires or if it's the content, of the actual interaction, right? And then communicate. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe you don't send a good morning text message. Maybe you send like a meme or a GIF or something like that to make her laugh or something that speaks to what she likes. Once you start to really get deep into those love languages, and I mean like not just understanding that person's love language, but understanding your own and
Mm-hmm.
being able to articulate those. Like
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, my top love languages are quality time, physical touch, and words of affirmation. And I
Mm.
can tell you why those are my top three love languages. And I think once you get to a point where you can explain why those are your top love languages, then it gives context to like how that person is going to interact with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also understanding how you normally speak to a person because what a lot of people who look at love languages don't realize is the way that you receive is not necessarily the way that you know, that you speak when it comes to
Yeah.
love languages.
Yeah.
I actually speak in the opposite order.
Okay.
I speak with, gifts and acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
But if the person that I'm dating doesn't really understand that, they might look at something that I do and just be like, "Why does he keep doing this shit?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but if they understand that that's my love language and that's the way that I talk, then they'll start to realize, oh wow, like he really actually cares, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then on the flip side of it, it's also up to me to realize, like, okay, that's the way I talk. But if she, receives in, quality time or, words of affirmation, I got to figure out a whole nother way to like
Right.
do this thing so that she can actually hear me,
Yeah.
when I'm talking. So
Mm-hmm.
I think love language is a probably at the top of my list of conversations when you're dating right now.
Yeah, and I think it's an important one because, like you said, it shows that's how we show up. That's how we give, and like you said, just knowing how we receive love, that's really important. So, if you've never taken the five love languages test, it's the number five love languages. I don't know if it has an S on it or not. .com, and you can take that free test just so you can get to know a little about yourself. And if you're dating someone, encourage them or invite them to take that test as well, and then you can have a conversation about it like Al is saying, and that can spark up all kind of thoughts and ideas, and you can get to know people even better, and then you can know how to relate and a better way to connect with the person as well. So I love that idea. So what else, what other things would you give as far as advice for women?
So um, again, goes back to what I've been talking about all night with being intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's really easy to pick up on a person's intent. When you look at the type of things that they suggest, the conversations that they're having with you. Just be very very uh, mindful of those interactions. Like when you that even with that first conversation, right? Just be extremely receptive and very observant of the type of conversation that they want to have. I mean, when I talked about the whole social media piece earlier, right? Not just looking at, oh, they got like some cool pictures or whatever, right? Like, oh, he's handsome in his picture. Look at what they're writing, you know what I mean? Like, and I get it, some people they're not real out there with social media, right? But if they do write something, like look at the context behind it, right? Like try to figure out like, okay, what is this person really about?
Yeah.
Because I feel like again, this time that we're in, it's super easy to get contextual about what a person is about, when they're talking to you, and to get some type of depth, from a person because again, you don't have the distractions that we typically have.
Yeah.
So use that to your full advantage. Like, do these FaceTime, dates or whatever, right? get into that like often and early.
Mhm.
I know, I'll be honest, for me, it was weird, for a minute to do like FaceTime with a person. But now, when, you know, because we're in this current, state that we're in, it's like you kind of want that, right? You kind of want to physically like see somebody. So use that to your full advantage, start paying attention to a person's mannerisms, the way, like when you ask them a question, what do they do? Body language speaks volumes. All right. Like, so if you're gonna do these FaceTimes, pay attention to their body language when you ask them a question.
Mm.
Guys, I know you hate me right now.
I mean, like, come on, you
Like
get
all
too
the stuff, yeah,
much.
all the stuff that you can typically hide, like when you're on the phone with a person, right? You can't hide it with a FaceTime, right? Like when you ask a question, right? You can look at the body language.
Yeah.
It's so much more than the words that you're saying. Like look at the person's mannerisms when you ask them that question and start to figure out, like, what is this person really for me? Because um I was telling one of my married friends the other day, like, I was like, bruh, you are so lucky, man, like to be married right now. Like,
Yeah.
you realize how hard it is? Because let's be real, like, people they got options right now, right? Because, you talk to somebody and you are literally a swipe away from your next date.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I would really urge you to do is, as you're being intentional about dating, also try to find a safe amount of patience, right? Because we live in this cancel culture,
Yep.
right? So the moment somebody does one thing wrong, we like, let me
Mhm.
go swipe to the next person, or whatever, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
But again, there's beauty in those flaws, right? Sometimes you kind of just gotta let it play out, um,
Yeah.
and again at a comfortable space, right? So um, again, be very intentional about dating. Understand, your love languages. Understand patience and the amount of patience that you want to have, as you're getting to know that person. So.
Got it. Okay. All right, ladies. I hope you were listening because this has been some good advice from my brother. And I know that you've seen a lot, so I know it's valuable and that people can put it to good use. So I encourage you to try some of this stuff out. Let us know how it's working for you. So this conversation has gone by so fast. Like we are already at the end of this conversation. So if you are just joining us, we talked about quarantine dating. We talked about the pros and the cons, whether you should do it or not. Totally up to you. It's what you choose to do. We talked about some places that you could go, virtual places that you could go, to find the person that you are interested in, Facebook groups, dating apps, those kind of things. Or if you're in the grocery store, our brother Kelson said, just ask her to pull down her mask right quick to see what the mouth looking like. Because that's important. You don't want no surprises later on if you are very into, teeth, nice teeth. And so we talked about a lot of things, just some ideas that you could do during this time to get creative. And we talked about just really being intentional. So we've shared a lot. This has been a great conversation. Thank you all for tuning in. So any last words, Al? How can we find you? What last things do you want to share with the people?
Yeah, so finding me really easy. Al Williams, that's me on Facebook. On Instagram, Fly Neo Soul. For those that have youngins out there, I am putting together a program, like I talked about earlier, for young gentlemen. I know right now, the pandemic is kind of slowing things down, but
Yeah.
I am putting together what I like to call the Flygent program, where I'm going to teach, young men how to be upstanding men in society. So that's everything from chivalry, which I think is a very lost art.
Yeah.
Um, Fellas, like, you have to court her, right? Go look up that word of courtship. Like, it's a thing, right? Like, women appreciate that when you like
Yeah.
walk on the right side of the street, when you open doors, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially now with everything that's going on, like, there's various ways you can show that you are entrenched in courtship. So, teaching men about that. There's so many things I want to do with that program. Especially with what we're learning about each other from this pandemic. So again, I can't stress it enough. Be intentional. Learn your love language.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, my brother. I really appreciate you for just, taking the time to talk to me today and just for the wisdom that you have shared with us. So I hope you all can take something from this conversation. This has been Relationship Talks with Shavon Carter, and I'll be logging back on soon. I don't know when. I'm gonna do it periodically. I'm not gonna commit to every week, but we'll be back on periodically to have these conversations. So until the next time, thank y'all for tuning in. Good night.
Right.